This is Sybert signing into Kane's Wrath on the map Tournament Rift with HiDrauLick as the green Scrin on the left side, and on the right side it is none other than KiMOsaBE as the blue GDI. And this is, of course, going to be GDI versus Scrin. No fancy sub-factions. However, it is going to be looking like standard play out of KiMOsaBE and pretty standard play out of HiDrauLick as well. And that meaning that he did go for that barracks, the engineer, and then sold it off immediately. Nothing too wonky there. Isn't going for super heavy eco, but actually it might be. Is that three? That is three engineers out of KiMOsaBE going to be heading down. So he's looking to secure those bottom spike. And actually, HiDrauLick is going the perfect build for KiMOsaBE to be able to pull this off flawlessly. As you can see, there's only one buzzer hive, and he is going to be going for that refinery and not going to be throwing down any extra base defenses and drafting those extra scouts. So it is going to be KiMOsaBE going to be able to most likely secure these bottom spikes with absolutely no problem, which is great for him. He'll get the cash back on the engineer and then start raking in that money and have a slight economic advantage over HiDrauLick. And while HiDrauLick is going to be dropping down that warp sphere and the war factory goes down, the timings are essentially identical for these two players, which means that they're both going to be playing absolutely standard. And it does look like, yeah, that is going to be, I guess, dual, well, not dual, but a harvester for each one of these players. So they're both going to be producing a single harvester and then following it up with even, I'm assuming we're going to see some aggression, but no, it is going to be another harvester for HiDrauLick and possibly another harvester for KiMOsaBE. He is going to be going for some sort of a building there. Could actually be a extra refinery before expand. Wouldn't be too surprising to see that, which might be why he's delaying that harvester or any sort of aggression. And that I'm guessing that is going to be a harvester building quite slowly there. And there is the extra power plant and going to be the expand, and actually not going to be heading for the southern base. It was kind of pulling off in the wrong direction. For that, it looks like he is going to be taking the more aggressive expand to the center field, while KiMOsaBE, on the other hand, going to be expanding south and actually throwing down an extra power plant just to keep his stuff all powered up, grabbing both of these spikes, and then turning his scouts onto his enemy's base. And he will actually be able to see that, hey, there's actually no MCV for HiDrauLick. So he'll either think, hey, this is going to be an all-in crazy attack, or he has expanded to the center, and that is, of course, going to be up to KiMOsaBE to determine, while KiMOsaBE going to be setting up on the southern expansion, which is more of the natural expansion, actually going for a buzzer hive, kind of revealing that he does have that MCV on the map. If I don't actually know if that was spotted by KiMOsaBE. Actually, yeah, I guess that did take out that other rifleman squad. However, the watchtower will clean up the extra buzzer squad hive scout for HiDrauLick. HiDrauLick going to be throwing down the nerve center and then actually going for a war factory. So not looking to set up any more economy. He's looking to just power off of these 6 harvesters that he's got rolling right now on those 2 refineries, and actually going to be transitioning into devourer tanks, which is not a bad plan at all. Supporting those with a couple of gunwalkers and seekers would make a very powerful attack force. And he must be going for a refinery now, going to be trying to get his expansion set up. And KiMOsaBE actually going to be transitioning 2 harvesters, sending them down to the southern field. And actually, no, that is going to be a predator tank, not an additional harvester, and still rocking the 5 up here. So I'm assuming, yeah, the refinery will go down for KiMOsaBE. A little bit of an awkward position. It is a teeny tiny bit exposed, but it is going to be actually dual warp sphere on the center ground there behind the naval yard, not quite the nerve center, rather, for HiDrauLick. And he's actually going to be looking to move out with this pressure. Just 2 of the devourer tanks, the 3 others are going to be following close suit, but KiMOsaBE will have plenty of money. He needs to counter with lots of predator tanks to just deal with these devourer tanks, and then maybe even follow it up with some sort of APC and infantry combo. But more likely, oh, he actually is going to be going for the mines there for the devourer tanks, and HiDrauLick decides, hey, let's just run those mines right over to take maximum damage from them, and just needs to continue to pump out predator tanks. We'll actually be going for a shatter tank and going to be dropping down a single barracks, and actually loses one of the devourer tanks. So HiDrauLick not in a great position. KiMOsaBE going to be able to react to this fairly well. The gunwalkers will be able to counter the infantry quite well. However, KiMOsaBE going to be pulling back completely, leaving the infantry to die. Not a good situation to be in, while the tanks need to roll in here, selling off both of them, even selling off the war factory there. KiMOsaBE kind of going all in with this attack, trying to get the buildings completely out of the way so he can just roll over this army, but actually, well, not all in at all. However, actually, KiMOsaBE grabbing that spike over here and laying down mines just to deter any sort of extra assimilators from HiDrauLick, and he actually is going to be laying down more mines. It wouldn't be too bad of an idea just to set up a little minefield, at least force some seeker tanks, which seeker tanks wouldn't be a bad idea anyways. It is going to be an airfield and that in the command post. Typically, they do get thrown down in that kind of central position, and actually, it is going to be calling in the Bloodhounds, so there goes $3 grand from KiMOsaBE's bank account. However, oh my gosh, he's actually already up to those 4 orcas, and he will spot there's absolutely no harvesters at that southern field, so he's going to be going for the completely unprotected back of HiDrauLick's army, but can he break the back of the economy of HiDrauLick? And while HiDrauLick is going to be breaking the army and also the front door, so ding dong, there goes your door, just exploded into about 400 pieces as Devourer tanks blow up everything that you had right there, and the orcas take out 2 or 3 harvesters there. And what can KiMOsaBE actually counter with this? Well, just more tanks and a couple of more orcas, even going Crane just to pump out an extra build queue, and there goes the last power plant. So KiMOsaBE has been effectively cleaned up on the north side. His follow-up to this will be, of course, absolutely imperative, and going to be running even a surveyor, an outpost out here to get an expansion set up. Might actually be expanding to the south. We've seen that in the past. However, Bloodhounds will be able to go hit for hit with the attacking force, and actually, oh, this may be a bit of a mistake. Delaying those Devourer tanks. Needs to make sure that he pushes in here and does something about this airfield before the orcas are able to bomb everything down. However, the Gunwalker is doing a really good job of actually cleaning up all of the orcas, and KiMOsaBE not doing a good job of making something happen with those orcas. Just let them all get taken out without firing any bombs. Not a good situation to be in. Going to be reforming his Predator tank front line. Even got dual War Factory facing the back of his base, and the MCV hasn't actually moved during this time. Would actually be possible to just try and escape it on out of there. However, over here, the Surveyor has set up, or been going to be trying to setting up over there. However, Devourer tank's about to run out of their Tiberium reserves, and then it will be time for KiMOsaBE to roll in. He's mixing in infantry just to give himself some extra firepower, and HiDrauLick going to be pulling back. He's done the damage that he needs to do. Doesn't need to leave any more units behind. He will lose 2 of those Gunwalkers, and continuing to power the economy over here. Would be good to get a 3rd refinery. He really does need to transition. No, actually needs to sell off one of these refineries and transfer a single harvester over to that field just to make sure he keeps it mined out basically this entire game. Surveyor desperately trying to set up, but with 4 Tiberium spikes, that will be a little bit more economy for KiMOsaBE, and while the MCB has actually moved down to the blue field and will be able to secure both of the bottom spikes, giving a little bit of a more economy to HiDrauLick, while a couple of orcas will be showing up to the fight, but they are a little bit late, and they will get cleaned up there by Gunwalkers. Not actually sure what KiMOsaBE is actually doing, just holding this orca there right there. Not a good situation to be in, and he will be able to clean up the rest of the Devourer tanks with a mix of Predator tanks, but also those rocket dudes will be able to do just a little bit more damage. Throwing away some APCs, not a good situation to be in, and I need to stop saying that because it's been too many times in this cast. However, those APCs will all get cleaned up by the Gunwalkers from HiDrauLick, but HiDrauLick will have to contend this army, and actually, no, he won't, because he's going to be slipping right on by this army, and KiMOsaBE definitely needs some defense up, but I don't think he actually has the tech to warrant any sort of sonic emitters, while on the other hand, HiDrauLick needs to just try and focus down some of these tanks and get out more Devourers for defense, because 3 of them may be able to hold their line for a little bit, but as soon as KiMOsaBE pushes in here with these Predator tanks, he'll be able to clean up this small army, and especially not with everything engaging. HiDrauLick completely failing to engage with his units right there. Not a good move to make, and the Predator tanks are going to be rolling in, while on the south side it is going to be HiDrauLick trying to roll into KiMOsaBE's base, and KiMOsaBE will be mostly getting cleaned up while he is going to be expanding on the back of his, which is most likely the most important part of this, but with a Predator tank defense will not be broken. The economy getting sniped by those Devourer tanks, and needs to even be sending some of them up here just because it is currently a little bit safer to be harvesting from that northern field, while HiDrauLick going to be reforming his army and even getting an extra kill on that Predator tank, selling off that refinery because he doesn't need it anymore, and rocking 3 harvesters down here, selling off that Surveyor just to get a little bit more money. However, the harvester will be spotted, but also, and actually no, that the 3rd Tiberium spike will not be captured by HiDrauLick. He is going to be able to harvest this blue tib, which it has already paid for itself. Well, almost, as long as he's gotten at least 1 load of Tiberium in, he's basically paid for it by now. The drone platform will be spotted, and KiMOsaBE is going to be desperately trying to deal with this army. Might actually be able to snipe down 2 more of those tanks with, I think, a single shot right there. Might have actually been a couple of shots. However, they will be able to completely cut this army off, and oh, HiDrauLick not paying attention, not able to completely change his units a path, and actually, I don't know what he could have done in that situation. As you can see, he tried to reverse move at the last moment, which was a good move, and that was actually a demonstration of decent control by HiDrauLick and paying attention. However, it was too little too late, and now suddenly suddenly his entire expansion is going to be getting steamrolled, and this game has gone all over the place from a rather slow opener into just absolutely crazy amounts of stuff happening all over the place, and the Gunwalker is going to be trying to pull back and engage on the left side while the Predator tanks are going to be trying to hold off this army and save KiMOsaBE's MCV from getting taken out as just more and more units pump out for HiDrauLick, while HiDrauLick and KiMOsaBE are actually going to be having a little bit of a battle of the base defenses, who can pump out more units, more base defense as well, considering the War Factory is already down and there's no disintegrators showing up to shoot down absolutely everything. The portal does go down right there, and the power is now out for KiMOsaBE, dropping down an extra War Factory even, and the Devour tanks, are there any left? No, they have pulled back to that northern Tiberium field to recharge their Tiberium lasers, and still going to be harvesting this field. That's a great move for HiDrauLick, going to be dropping down that Ichor seed as well, because hey, why not, and going to be even moving the MCV. Too bad no pit bulls were around for KiMOsaBE to do damage to that, but KiMOsaBE actually has been able to macro up a fair-sized army, mixing in some infantry just to make sure he's got a somewhat balanced army, and he's still rocking that one refinery. Needs to transfer a harvester, although he's got lots of harvesters going over here. Not quite as many as he should have at this stage of the game, and KiMOsaBE isn't exactly doing all that great either with how many does he have over here? Just those 4, I do believe, with the 3 refineries. Needs to pump out 1 or 2 more just to fully saturate that base. And actually, no, he does have one rolling around in the middle of the map, and KiMOsaBE going to be rolling up on this northern base. He can then expand to that northern base and the original home of HiDrauLick. So HiDrauLick going to be trying to re-engage here, but too many Predator tanks and a single Predator tank trying to be fancy, trying to get a flank, but HiDrauLick was too good for that, able to clean up an extra Predator tank, get a kill when he may not have otherwise been able to in that situation. However, HiDrauLick going to be trying to reform his army, moving in with disintegrators, a great choice, and KiMOsaBE isn't going to be able to try and run forward to run them over, because he'll just be taking so much damage from HiDrauLick, while over here HiDrauLick desperately trying to pull back from KiMOsaBE's tank, losing an extra Devourer tank, and the APCs rolling in, going to be able to basically clean up most of those Devourer and most of these Devourer, I don't even know what I'm saying anymore, trying to clean up the disintegrators and losing some of those units to the mines. Not a good move. However, Orca transition, not necessarily a great move, just considering how many Gunwalkers we have seen, but if they can sneak around and do damage to the Devourers, they'll be able to do absolutely ridiculous amounts of damage. Orca Strike does come in, doesn't really do anything. However, will he be able to get any bombs off on the MCV? That is a real question here, and the Predator tanks mixed in with those Rifleman squads going to be trying to take down this last Devourer tank. The lone Devourer tank going to be trying to escape slowly but surely. Has the tech actually gone down for KiMOsaBE? No, he's still rolling on that tier 2, which is absolutely fine for him. AP ammo was already purchased, so he can go ahead and just pump out those very effective APCs, especially with the mines, and 4 of those Predator tanks will be able to clean up these 2 Devourer tanks, even with their Tiberium-charged lasers, while on the north side, KiMOsaBE should not have engaged with this very small army. He'll just basically begin getting cleaned up here, and he's not a huge deal because he's not losing a ridiculous amount of units, but oh, losing an armory, that cannot feel good, even if that was just a little bit of a buffer zone for the MCV. That was an expensive buffer, and not the sort of buffer that you really want to have. The MCV will go down in a matter of seconds there. There's really nothing KiMOsaBE can do unless he's got a one-click waiting, and there's no units actually going to be moving on the minimap towards this Devourer tank army. They will be able to completely clean up this MCV. KiMOsaBE win. May have to actually just seed this entire base. No, what are you doing, HiDrauLick? Stop turning around. Just finish the MCV and then turn around and go about your merry way. But even the Lightning Spike going to be able to sit around here and just do damage. Might actually want to take down the refinery and the command post, because then no base defenses would go down. Oh, Orca's going to be showing up to do massive amounts of damage to these Devourer tanks with that, not with the stacking of those units. That is absolutely not a good situation for HiDrauLick, desperately trying to keep in line these Devourer tanks, going to be trying to rotate them around these buildings to try and make something happen, going to be cleaning up the tech, recharging on that single Tiberium crystal, and selling off absolutely everything, reconsolidating his forces to the left side of the map. HiDrauLick is going to be losing an MCV, actually, versus just a couple of units. Will be selling it off at the last second there. He did not want to lose it, and there wasn't really anything he could do to stop it right then. Orcas will be getting picked off in low power mode. Another crane going down. No actual MCV, so both of these players have lost their MCVs in the past minute or so. A couple of Devourer tanks over there on the right side of the map. However, it is going to be Gunwalkers and Devourer tank continually being pushed out by our HiDrauLick Scrin player. and even a Shadow Tank going to be trying to get in on the action, but not really being of all that much use. And great use of mines by KiMOsaBE, going to be able to lay down mines, and just at the very least, it will prevent these units if it doesn't actually do any damage to them. I think that HiDrauLick saw those mines go down and decided to pull back. He was about to run straight into them. He is going to be regrouping around this Tiberium field, which if he's lucky, he'll be able to catch 2 or even 3 or maybe all 4 or 5 harvesters from that field and completely drying this Tiberium field out. And actually going to be able to catch one of those harvesters most likely. The rest of them should be turning around and getting out of there. No, KiMOsaBE not actually controlling quite perfectly there. He will instead be trying to focus down with the orcas, those harvesters in the middle of the map. However, it is going to be APCs trying to counter this army, and another harvester does go down. I do believe that was 3 harvesters going down, and was that matched by the damage output? A Devourer Tank and a harvester at least going down. I think that was 2 harvesters and a Devourer Tank going down, while a third does enter that low damage mode from those orcas. So those orcas, I don't know if they've technically paid for themselves, but they are getting super, super close. And actually killing off, Hammerhead on top of that. Not a bad situation, not a bad choice. Man, I keep saying situation. However, not a bad choice because of that AP ammo. It's just so good on those Hammerheads, and even mass Hammerheads. We've seen that been used to great effect by many different players, is just going for lots of Hammerheads and just guns, just the gun damage type, and just that AP ammo able to absolutely tear through a lot of units. And suddenly, with absolutely no economy going on, actually this Ichor Seed may be able to give a little bit more life and longevity, but no, it wasn't the best Ichor Seed that he could have gotten. It wasn't too bad, and he will definitely get his money's worth. However, the Tier 2 may very well go down, as the nerve center will fall to the bombs of those orcas, and the orcas need to get out of there. They do not need to fight that fight. They need to leave that fight for the ground army, and KiMOsaBE should be able to just roll over the rest of the stuff. However, it will come down to the defense. Can HiDrauLick actually hold out here? He does have a lot of stuff, and the gangle is not actually quite as good as it could be for KiMOsaBE. But no, HiDrauLick is going to be throwing away some units, trying to crush the infantry, but will it ultimately pay out? He is running way further than he needs to go, and now he is going to be stacking up his units, which is not a good situation to be in with the Shadow Tanks. He does focus down accurately. However, with the last few units, will KiMOsaBE be pushed out, or will HiDrauLick manage to just take down everything that, or just will he manage to lose everything? But no, HiDrauLick has held, so I may have spoken too soon there. HiDrauLick still in this game. However, who has the superior economy? It's hard to say, since neither one of them actually has very much Tiberium. But HiDrauLick going to be in a better economic position just with all of this Tiberium so close to him. However, over on the left side, it's not actually anything for either one of these players. The MCB is going to be getting, almost capped, and it will get most likely sniped by that Hammerhead. It really can't move at this point, and KiMOsaBE just has to move his MCB. And then as soon as the assimilator tries to move, it'll get taken out by that Hammerhead, and he can actually even just try and run it over, just kind of run that harvester back over that same spot. However, the Gunwalker is going to be trying to engage the Hammer Tank, or the Hammerhead rather, who will actually win. It will be that Gunwalker. However, now the assimilator is free to move, and HiDrauLick does have eyes on the MCB of KiMOsaBE. Still going to be rolling on that one war factory, sold the other one off because he just simply couldn't afford to produce off of it, and reclaiming the bottom 2 spikes. So this is one of the longest games where the spikes have actually been intact for the entire time. Most of the time you see players go ahead and reclaim that. Devourer Tanks taking down the MCV in a matter of seconds, getting $6. That cannot feel good for KiMOsaBE, and HiDrauLick is going to be feeling absolutely great. However, if this comes down to a base race, it'll be much easier for KiMOsaBE to just eliminate the last few buildings. And no, even the war factory, which means these 4 orcas should be able to clean up that warp sphere if they turn north and go for the kill. And no, they're not actually going to be, they're going to be going for the units, and HiDrauLick desperately needs to keep his units here and ward off those orcas, because otherwise the orcas will be able to swoop in and take down that with a elite and a heroic orca mixed in there. That's not a bad situation. The control of KiMOsaBE pretty good, splitting off the orcas which are damaged and then keeping the ones that are at full health. A good move by KiMOsaBE, and KiMOsaBE going to be rolling in here with a couple of more orcas, getting another veterancy upgrade for that orca, and the crane is still rolling strong, and that's just good control by KiMOsaBE. Those orcas have definitely paid for themselves, just keeping this army off and warding it just a little bit longer. But with 4 and, well, no, it's actually going to be 6 Predator tanks, and now a 7th rolling up. KiMOsaBE should be able to hold this off relatively easily. There shouldn't be too much of an issue here, especially with the orcas rolling in for support. And I think this may be it for HiDrauLick. I wouldn't be saying that if he still had an economy, but with a Warp Spear and no way to get money and also no money, and his last two Devour tanks about to get cleaned up here in a close match, KiMOsaBE will most likely be able to take this game, although no, I keep seeing this lightning spike over there. Right there, it does go down. HiDrauLick has been defeated, saying GG most likely at the end there, and a GG indeed. A slow start followed up by a crazy mid, and we didn't even really kind of see the late game just in terms of tech late game, but KiMOsaBE constantly outpacing the economy of HiDrauLick, although HiDrauLick was able to do quite a bit of damage in that mid-game. A 20-minute game from KiMOsaBE and HiDrauLick. That will do it for this game. This is sybert, signing out.